Section 1. The Industrial Revolution. Background knowledge. In the early 1700s, most people worked as farmers. Men worked in the fields to produce food for their families. Women helped in the fields and made simple goods like candles and soaps at home. In this section, we will see how new inventions began to change in the way people lived and worked. A revolution in technology. In the 1700s, a great change began that we now call the Industrial Revolution. Gradually, machines took the place of many hand tools. Much of the power once provided by people and horses began to be replaced, first by flowing water and then by steam engines. The Industrial Revolution began in England in the textile or cloth making industry. For centuries, workers had spun thread in their homes on spinning wheels. Cloth was woven on hand looms. Making cloth was time consuming. It took one person spinning one strand at a time almost 2 weeks to produce a pound of cotton thread. Machines and factories. In the 1760s, the spinning jenny speeded up the making process. The jenny allowed a person to spin many strands at once. However, thread still had to be made by hand. Then in 1764, Richard Arkwright invented the water frame, a spinning machine powered by running water rather than human energy. To house the large machines, manufacturers built textile mills on the banks of rivers. The new mills created a new way of working known as the factory system. The factory system brings workers and machinery together in one place. Instead of spinning at home, textile workers had to go to factories and begin and end work at specific times. Workers now had to keep up the machines instead of working at their own pace. English mill owners soon recognized the potential of the new water frames and the factory system. However, the system required huge amounts of money to be invested in buildings and machines. Thus, the mill owners turned to capitalists, people who invest capital or money in a business to earn a profit. Factories proved to be a good investment for the capitalists and mill owners. By 1784, English workers were producing 24 times as much thread as they had in 1765. Steam power. Building factories on riverbanks had some disadvantages. In dry season, the machines had no power. Also, most factories were far from cities, and labor was hard to find in rural areas. In 1790, Arkwright built the first steam powered textile plant. The steam engine was a reliable source of power. Factories no longer had to be built on riverbanks, they could be built in cities where young women and children provided cheap labor. Britain tried to guard the secrets of its industrial success. It forbade anyone to take information about textile machinery out of Britain. Skilled workers were forbidden to leave the country. The American Industrial Revolution. In 1789, a young apprentice in one of Arkwright's factories decided to immigrate to the United States. Samuel Slater knew that his knowledge of Arkwright's machines could be worth a fortune. He studied hard and memorized the plans of Arkwright's machines. Then he boarded a ship for New York. In the United States, Slater joined forces with a wealthy merchant, Moses Brown. Brown had rented a textile mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Relying entirely on his memory, Slater constructed a spinning machine based on Arkwright's. Slater's factory began producing cotton thread at a rate never before seen in the United States. American industry grows. The success of Slater's mill marked the beginning of American industrialization. Industrialization began in the Northeast. The region was home to a class of merchants who had capital to build factories and buy raw materials. Still, U.S. industry did not grow significantly until the War of 1812. As the British Navy blockaded U.S. ports Americans had to depend on their own industries to supply goods. The Lowell Mills. Francis Cabot Lowell was found a way. Before the war, he had visited England and seen the latest weaving machines. When he returned to the United States, Lowell and an associate built an improved version of the English machines. With several other capitalists, Lowell opened a mill in Waltham, Massachusetts. The mill was organized in a new way. Instead of obtaining thread from separate spinning mills, Lowell's factory brought together spinning and weaving in one building. After Lowell died in 1817, his partners expanded the business. Wanting better lives for their workers, the partners built a new town with boarding houses, a library, and a hospital. They named their mill town Lowell after their late partner. Lowell girls. The new factories were staffed with young women from nearby farms. Lowell girls lived in boarding houses under strict supervision. After work, they might attend lectures or visit libraries. As a result, many women gained an education they probably would not have received on their family farms. The British novelist Charles Dickens was amazed when he saw Lowell. Firstly, there is a piano in a great many of the boarding houses. Secondly, nearly all of these young ladies subscribe to circulating libraries. Thirdly, they have created a periodical called the Lowell Offering. The revolution takes hold. The Lowell system was an example of the unique American outlook. Without a long tradition of doing things a certain way, Americans experimented with new methods. One of the most important developments was mass production, or the rapid manufacture of large numbers of identical objects. Before the 1800s, skilled craft workers manufactured clocks, guns, and other mechanical products. Each part of the gun or clock was handcrafted. When a part broke, the crafts worker had to create a unique piece to fit the product. In 1790s, American inventor Eli Whitney devised a system of interchangeable parts, identical pieces that could be assembled quickly by unskilled workers. Interchangeable parts soon came to be used in the manufacture of other products. Manufacturing became more efficient. The price of many goods dropped as people brought more goods. As people bought more goods, U.S. industry expanded to satisfy their needs. Factory life. As we have read, the Lowell Mills treated factory workers in a new and kinder way. However, this was not the general rule. Samuel Slater employed children in a textile mill, as had been done for decades in British factories. As time went on, working conditions for children and adults became harsher. Child labor. Children routinely worked on family farms in the 1800s. Their labor was often needed to help feed the families. Working on a home farm was different than working in a factory, however. American textile mills, coal mines, and steel foundries employed children as young as 7 or 8. These children had no opportunities for education. They often worked in unsafe conditions. By 1880, more than a million children between the ages of 10 and 15 worked for pay. Factory conditions. Working conditions were appalling. Factories were poorly lighted. There was little fresh air. Machines were designed to perform a task, not to protect the worker. As a result, many workers were injured on the job. A worker who lost a hand or a foot received no help. He or she needed to depend on a family for support. Business owners provided no payments for disabled workers as they do by law today. To keep machines running as long as possible, workdays lasted 12 or 14 hours. By 1844, workers were demanding shorter days. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for God and the brethren was an early slogan. Conditions gradually improved, but the 8-hour workday was far in the future. Looking back and ahead, although new factories were hard on workers, industrialization led to vastly increased production and lower prices. In the next section, we will read how the growth of the northern industry helped to widen the gap between the north and the south.